Broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this episode of the AR-15 podcast is sponsored by Patriot Patch Company. PatriotPatch.co.
Welcome to the AR-15 podcast. This is the podcast about your favorite black rifle. This show is for you. Whether you're building your first AR or you've been building ARs for years, there is something we can all do to take our black rifle to the next level.
You make this show possible by clicking through our Brownells and Amazon affiliate links. The next time you order online, go to AR15podcast.com and click through our Brownells and Amazon affiliate links. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and a small portion of your sale goes to supporting pro-gun radio like the AR-15 podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 157 of the AR-15 podcast. So we've got a special guest tonight, Stacy Nagy from Primary Weapon Systems. Stacy, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you all doing?
Hey, we're doing great. We have our regular co-host, JW and JD, sitting in to give Stacy a grilling so he can give us some insights into what PWS is out there doing to innovate and make new in the AR-15 world.
Yeah, I got to hear about what I missed there sticking around here at home for a shot.
Well, you know what they say, what happens in Vegas doesn't leave Vegas unless it's on Instagram.
Yep.
So, let's kind of just turn right to it. So, Stacy, it looks like PWS has a new rifle out, and why don't you just kind of give us the thumbnail sketch of what you guys have done here?
You bet. Ooh, here it is. The MK1 Mod2. And of course, we have our full range of barrel lengths from the 7.75 to the 18. I have the 18 too, but it probably won't show very well. You know, it'd be like the spaceship in Star Wars coming across the camera. Thing's massive. But anyways, kind of use my face for scale here. You know, anybody that's familiar with our old product line can pretty much instantly see that the handguard is narrower vertically and in cross section than the old one. So we've made this thing as compact and lightweight as possible. We have achieved basically a 6.5 to 7 ounce weight loss on all of our guns from the MK1 to the MK1 And it's not just in one or two areas, it's the entire firearm. The handguard, the receiver set, upper and lower, and the buffer tube. And you know, basically we just wanted to make a lighter, faster gun without sacrificing strength, because of course, you know, one of the things we always try to do is make a gun that's a little bit different, but still is able to be used for, you know, for duty and self-defense without sacrificing you know, performance and reliability, of course, which is the whole reason for the piston system in the first place. So we've taken the pushrod long stroke design that we've had, going all the way back to 2009 as a complete upper, and then evolving into a rifle line, and basically we've just tried to couple it with an exterior that matches kind of the trickness of the interior. So now we've got this really beautiful, lightweight, enhanced forged receiver set. It's so funny, people were coming up to me at Cha-Cha and they kept saying, "Oh wow, you guys went billet, huh?" No, this is a forging, and this thing comes out of the forge with these detail lines, and there's actually very little post milling that takes place other than your typical cuts for the receiver rail, and then of course cutting out the magwell and the interior area for the internals. So it comes out of the forge looking very much like it is right now. The handguard, whole new design. We got rid of the old steel trunnion to receiver interface, and now the trunnion is actually built in as part of the receiver. So we've got this nice beefy aluminum flange that comes out here. The barrel seats into, of course, and barrel nut tightens it in, but then the handguard slips over the top of it and is anchored into place. And there is a cross bolt that slides into a detent, so that way, you know, fore and aft movement cannot occur once it's properly installed. Unlike in the past, it is easily user removable, so there's actually a hand tool included that allows you to remove the handguard on all the variants, and in this case, with the Mark 107, it now ships with the CQB 556 standard, which we stopped doing at the end of 2012 because people kept complaining about weight. So now that we've taken so much weight out of the rest of the gun, we decided, well, let's put the CQB back on it because it is a better muzzle device for this ultra short barreled rifle. So I think people enjoy that a lot.
So are those KeyMod cutouts on that rail?
They are, yep. We've been using the KeyMod since 2013. We were actually one of the first 4 companies to have a chance to bring it to market, and it's worked so well for us that we just want to keep going. It self-indexes. There's a 1-page block of instructions for it that you rarely have to use. So as far as an accessory interface that's easier to use, I haven't seen one yet.
So explain to me what look like the similar crosscuts you'd find in the Picatinny rail that are sitting on that KeyMod section there.
Yes, that's the PicMod feature. So you've noticed a lot of handguards, they have Picatinny rail at the front of the handguard. Well, this one does too, except it is dimensioned and it's actually recessed behind it here, so it actually flows into the rest of the handguard with no swell. And as you can see from the cross section here, it's perfectly flat. So there is no swelling, there is no increase in width, yet you can take popular accessories like your D-ball laser module and popular lights, and you can either attach them to that rail, or if they're a direct connect KeyMod, then they can go into the KeyMod slots.
I think that's a pretty remarkable advancement there, kind of a combination of the best of both worlds, huh?
It is. I think it's been turning some heads. We had quite a few people at SHOT Show look at it and go, why the heck didn't I think about that, or why didn't somebody think of that before this? So it's kind of one of those features. It's like, bonk, yeah, somebody should have thought of that. And of course it allowed us to keep the handguard as compact as possible. Of course, you can't put a suppressor inside. It's that narrow. We do have that request from time to time. Personally, I think on a 5.56 or 308 firearm, it's a bad idea because the thing just gets so hot so fast with a suppressor underneath of it. But the 300 blackout crowd really likes it, and that's where a lot of the popularity is, because that round's a lot lower pressure. But we just decided to stick with as compact as possible because people seem to like that when they grasp the guns.
Right. Well, tell us about the receiver and the internals there. Anything to note?
Yes, absolutely. So brand new to the PWS Mark 1 line is Ambidextrous Controls. So we have your standard mag release, ambi bolt release, and then you flip around, you've got your ambi mag release down on the receiver here, and then of course your standard bolt release, bolt catch. The release on the other side for the bolt is not a catch, it is just a release, so that is something to note. We've got a flared mag well, so much larger opening, so it's going to be a lot easier to index and insert that magazine. The trigger's big news. This is the new ZEV trigger, and I think SHOT Show is actually the first time it was seen in the wild by anyone, just like the Mod 2. So we're really excited about that, and it is a adjustable trigger that'll be factory set, but the user can adjust it after the fact as well. And we're just trying to achieve a pull weight that's similar or less than a mil-spec trigger, but with a lot less creep and a much smoother, quicker reset. And I think.
So are we talking about a 2-stage or a single stage?
It is a single. It is a single stage. Yep.
And in terms of the components, are you guys kind of going with the trend of having the nickel insert element here coating on it, or are you guys going with the pretty standardized materials for it?
I believe the final process is titanium nitriding, but I'm not 100% certain of that. I know that it is a process with the metal name titanium in it, but I believe that's it, a titanium nitriding.
Well, if it's gold, then it's the titanium, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually more of a burnt, almost kind of a burnt bronze color. It's kind of a burnt copper color, so it's not quite, it's not the bling gold that you see sometimes. But most of those processes, if there is a color achieved, they can tweak it a little bit with the variance in chemical compound that we're able to do.
Well, in terms of the ambidexterity, were there any challenges in trying to insert the controls in a meaningful and useful way? Because I'm seeing a lot more attempts to integrate ambidexterity into the receiver as opposed to integrate ambidexterity into the accessories or the control components that go onto the receiver.
There wasn't too much development challenge with that, just because there's enough other platforms that have been using ambi controls for the last 5 and 6 years in the AR that we were able to kind of look at what other people were doing and either go the same direction or veer away from it if it was something that didn't work. And I think the Meg release is fairly similar to what you'll see on a lot of the Knights lowers. And then the Bolt release, there's not a direct equivalent I can think of off the top of my head, but it's probably very similar to what you see on a lot of the other ambulars. I mean, because of the location and the amount of space you have, there's not a whole lot of variation that you have able to work with on that. So we try to keep it simple.
Now I take it by the mechanism in which you've assembled the upper that you're still not envisioning the picket parts idea of component sales to the end consumer at this point.
As far as the piston gun goes, because of the fact that it is so AK-like, it is pretty much impossible to do a component by component sale as a kit or anything else. Because basically, with this, let's say you didn't use our receiver, the kit would be everything except for the receiver and the charging handle. And because of that, the cost would be outrageous, and you might as well buy the complete upper.
Right.
So that's kind of where we've been with it since the Mod 1 came out back in 2013, and at this point, that's probably the way it'll be. There will be a company tied to PWS. They debuted at SHOT Show, Bootleg. Bootleg Incorporated will be more or less a DI parts house that is basically using primary weapon systems manufacturing to offer a DI accessory line. So we are excited about that, and that way PWS is piston focused, and then Bootleg will be kind of a upper end DI house.
Well, you'll have to go into that after we finish talking about the MK1 Mod2. But so let's keep going. You've made some improvements to your extended or your enhanced buffer tube, and certainly I'm not all that familiar with what you've done to the castle nut, but it seems like a pretty innovative approach or an advancement in terms of what people have been doing since the mid-60s?
Yeah. Once again, it's kind of one of those things where we want to keep it as simple as possible. So we have a cast end plate and castle nut, nothing new there. But at the base of the end plate, right above the QE swivel, there is a hardened pin driven in, and that actually interacts with machined teeth on the castle nut. And so what you have is a ratcheting system. So you install the buffer tube, snug up the end plate with the nut, and then torque it with your armor's wrench like you normally would, and you'll hear a zip, and that's it. It is torqued in place. It's effectively staked by that pin, so there's no way it can back out. So there's no need to beat on your, accessorized or $2,000 PWS rifle that you've made the investment in.
It's funny that you described that, because I'm sitting here fiddling around with a beat-up castle nut that I just changed off my SBR, because I've been playing around with the Law Tactical folder and kind of putting castle nuts on and off, and this sucker just got completely beat to crap, and so I had to go get another one. And it sounds like that's just a fantastic solution for, first of all, making sure you don't have to crank on it and kind of get it wedged between your legs or in a vise or something, and really torque on that armorer's tool.
Absolutely.
And it's staked. It's not going anywhere.
Absolutely. And the feature that everybody loved about the old buffer tube was the fact that that it did not have a castle nut and it had 3 set screws that installed linearly from the rear, which that was excellent. That was great. But when it came to the Mod 2 and we were looking at reduced cross section, reduced weight, we had to get rid of that design because it would have had a lot of width added to the gun. and with the lightweight receiver set, it just honestly it clashed. So we rethought the buffer tube as far as what could we do that went back to the thinner castanet style profile, but still kept a PWS spin on it. And this was the solution that we came up with. Once again, it's not earth-shattering, but it's enough of an innovation that's so simple that it's just kind of one of those things where people that do design work will slap their head and wonder why nobody else thought of it.
So in terms of the extended buffer tube and this ratcheting system in your handguard, are those, well, I guess it would be the, what would you call it, the key pick? Are those things that you're going to implement in other products that will be for sale separately? Will you sell a rail that has that key pick concept in it and sell the
I would
pick mod, Reed.
Pick mod. There you go. Pick mod.
I would stay tuned for the bootleg handguard that will have that same feature. Absolutely. It will look a little bit different because it actually uses the same attachment method and hardware as the Bravo Company KMR handguard, but other than that, it'll be virtually identical to this receiver from the mounting surface forward. Sorry, this handguard from the mounting surface forward.
That's awesome.
Now, in terms of the end plate and the castle nut that you guys have put together, your ratcheting system, are you going to sell that as an individual component so it can be retrofitted onto other buffer tubes? By current owners?
Absolutely. You can buy the entire tube in the kit, or you can get the end plate and the castle nut by itself. So, it's the buffer tube assembly actually went down in cost versus the old one. We actually were able to lower the MSRP by $50, and the end plate and the castle nut by itself will be about a $30 retail item. So it's something that's pretty easily retrofitted onto any existing tube. Somebody running the Volter A5 system, they're not going to want to scrap their tube and special buffer weight that they've got. So that way, if they do like our design for the end plate and castle nut, they can retrofit it easily.
That's awesome. Do you have a timeline on that? I see it's out of stock on the website right now.
They're literally ready to ship as soon as packaging lands. So we have the parts, we just don't have the clamshell packaging. It's always the 5-cent item.
Well, in terms of the bolt carrier group assembly and your buffer, any changes there? I mean, I know they're not sexy, but are those pretty much a follow or flow over from the Mark 1 Mod 1 line, or is there something to talk about there?
So I heard the second item was the buffer. What was the first item?
The bolt carrier group assembly.
Okay, not a whole lot changed there, but we did. I shouldn't say that. The Mod 2 carrier is all new. Let me withdraw it here and you can take a look at it maybe. So we did make some lightning changes basically. So there's a little bit less mass in this carrier versus the previous Mod 1 carrier. And we have actually for PDW stock fans, this is big news. And the JP silent captured spring. Our tail is now the same inner diameter as a mil-spec carrier, so you can use the JP SCS, and also you can use the Maxim PDW stock and the MVB PDW stocks, where previously there have been compatibility issues. So now you can have your PWS SBR and your PDW collapsible stock that you've always wanted. So that's kind of a fun deal there. You'll notice that the carrier is black now, and it's lithium salt nitriting. It's part of the same family of processes that that isonite, melanite is. It's all under ferritic carbonization. And then the bolt looks a little bit shinier because it's now polished nickel Teflon instead of just nickel Teflon. Previously we did a matte nickel Teflon, and now we've gone to a polished, which just makes it a little bit easier to wipe off than the previous one already was.
Well, I think that's nice that PWS cares about our mental health enough to add lithium to our rifles. So, in terms of performance, would you say that it is a fine-tuning, or are there any leaps that really are telling when you compare the Mod 1 and the Mod 2?
As far as internally, it's definitely just fine tuning. There wasn't a whole lot that needed to be revamped. We did do some fine tuning on the gas adjustments. We simplified them. Instead of there being 3 suppress settings, there's now basically open suppress setting 1 and then high pressure suppress setting 2. So the high pressure setting is basically when you have a very high pressure can and high pressure mil spec ammo, such as M855 or SS109. So it's not even a port in that setting. It's actually more of a flute. So it actually relies on the back pressure created by the suppressor to more or less have a delayed blowback dynamic, because a lot of people don't realize this, but all that pressure going back through the barrel, that actually helps unlock your bolt. And that's why you have a lot of high pressure unlocking with short SBRs, is because not only do you have the normal pressure that normally operates the firearm, you have a lot of pressure coming back through the bore that's also helping to operate the firearm at a faster than intended speed, and that's why you have some of the carrier speed issues with short SBRs. So with that setting, that should alleviate that, and then, you know, if there's any weird combinations beyond that, then of course just tuning your buffer weight to a heavier weight will alleviate that.
Do you ship all the same buffer weights between the different lengths of rifle? Is it just the gas length is changing?
It is the same buffer weight. It's an H2 weight in all of our rifles standard.
That seems to run pretty well across the spectrum.
Yep, absolutely, and it gives us the you know, the recoil characteristics that we want, with whether it's, you know, the cheapest low-powered ammo up to the highest powered ammo on the market. So you want to kind of have that happy medium.
Right.
Now, between the different length barrels, are your gas systems different lengths, and thereby creating a difference in the bolt carrier group's piston assembly, or is that length consistent and there's some other lengthening component?
The gas system length is actually both barrel length and caliber dependent. So 300 blackout offerings, for instance, are always a pistol length, and then the 223 is everything from pistol in a 7 to a carbine length in the new 111 to the 114, and then we also have a mid length in the Mark 116 now, where previously it was a carbine. So we have done a little bit more fine tuning on that gun as well, and then the Mark 118 is the mid length as well.
But the bolt stays the same across all the different platforms. It's
bolt and carrier stay the same. The only thing that changes is just the piston itself. And in the case of the Mark 118, the op rod is slightly longer as well.
Okay, so the piston on top of the bolt carrier group might get longer or shorter depending.
In the case of the Mark 107 versus the others, yes.
Okay.
Previously, in the Mod 1, there were different lengths of piston, but we've been able to condense them all to either a pistol length or a carbine length.
Okay.
So even the Mark 118 has what we called last year a carbine length piston, because it's on a longer op rod that extends further into the piston tube.
Okay. Well, and that was kind of what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah.
So in terms of the rifles, I mean, you know, you buy the rifle and you're committing to essentially the platform's components wholesale. There's not that kind of Lego style assembly that you see from kind of the bargain bin parts pick assemblies then.
Right. The ability to interchange your handguard, you know, your carrier, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that does kind of go by the wayside whenever you're dealing with a proprietary piston rifle, and that's true of you know, any platform. You know, there's not a whole lot of interchangeability on, you know, the 416, you know, the SCAR, of course. You know, anything that truly is a bench up dedicated gun that doesn't share a lot of doesn't share a lot of parts with other platforms, then you're going to have that. Spare parts wise, however, we have kept our gun as cross compatible as possible. If you had to, you can use a DI bolt assembly for a 5.56 or 223 wild chambered firearm AR-15 that has had the gas rings removed.
Okay.
You can probably use it with the gas rings installed, but in a pinch. But it'll move more freely and mimic the actual PWS bolt if the gas rings are removed. All your other components, your extractor, your internals, the ejector spring, extractor spring, of course, those are all interchangeable with AR-15 parts. So you can literally have good quality parts kits from other brands on the market, whether it's Colt parts or Bravo Company parts or whoever it might be. You can keep those parts handy and use them in your PWS. So,
Okay.
The actual wear parts, you don't have to go shopping at PWS to get all those items. I recommend a piston. Keep a piston just because we have a lot of people where they flat out tear them apart on the bench and the piston walks away.
Are you serious?
About the only time I sell a piston is because it flat out got lost. Bolt assemblies, it's a bolt assembly in an AR is a wear item, so keep one handy. You're probably not going to have to replace it, but maybe every 9,000 rounds, or if you're really, really hard use user, you might have to replace around the 6,000K mark. It just depends. Full auto suppressed M4s, you're supposed to pop it out of there every 2,500 rounds. A lot of people don't realize that. So it's one of those things where these things do have wear items, and it's not a bad idea to keep one or two spares around, but you don't have to make this massive investment in spare parts. It's literally a bolt assembly, a firing pin, and a small parts kit like your extractor and that kind of thing. So it's a pretty easy gun to take care of.
Well, in terms of the trigger, and I think that we've talked often enough to people about kind of one of the real simple upgrades to make that is going to help your rifle perform better in certain aspects is an upgraded trigger. Is there any difficulty in kind of the standard approaches to triggers? I mean, I see your bolt release on the ambidextrous side. It would be the right side of the rifle. Seems to interfere in terms of proximity with the idea of potentially having like one of the K&S anti-roll pin kits on there. I'm assuming that might even get in the way of some of the other concepts of having your walking pins. Is that the case on there?
I would say yes. The K&S pins are probably not compatible with this forging. They were at a booth and they were looking it over to see what they could do. So the fact that this lightweight forging set is going to be out on a couple different guns, I think you're probably going to see a set of anti-roll pins for it, or anti-walk pins in
Right.
little to no time.
Well, that's good.
As far as
Go ahead.
trigger compatibility goes, pretty much anything, it's a standard AR trigger pattern, so anything out there that's meant for the AR can go right in. The ambi parts don't change anything as far as that compatibility goes.
Well, I'm still looking for someone to make an ambi trigger. So, in terms of the furniture, the stock and the pistol grip, anything earth-shattering there, or is it pretty much standard PWS?
No, we did change furniture for this gun. Once again, we wanted lighter weight and more standard features. So we've got the BCM gunfighter stock, which has QD connection for your sling swivel standard. It seems to be a little bit more solid on our tube, and the adjustment method is real simple. You just got this big squeeze handle, and then the grip is the gunfighter grip, and I'm sure there's different types, but this particular angle was selected just because it seems to have a little bit better feel when you're up on an SBR trying to rotate your safety off instead of the steeper angle that you see. I'm sorry, shallower angle that you see on a lot of other grips.
Right.
And it also has the nice little storage trapdoor on the bottom here that is rubber padded, so when your adjustment tool and your handguard tool is in there, then they're not going to rattle around as bad.
I like the idea that if I am pretending to be a Navy SEAL in the bathtub, I'm not going to get any water in there. So, I mean, really, from the ground up, it sounds like you have put some thought into everything that's on the Mod 2. It doesn't seem like you left anything untouched here.
Pretty much, it's pretty much a whole new gun. About the only thing that is a carryover is the Bravo company charging handle. Now they look at it, and of course
Muzzle
the
devices.
muzzle device. Yeah, this is something that we've been producing. However, we did tweak the design of the Triad and the FSC, which are on the longer barrel offerings. Here's the new FSC.
Oh, very nice.
We closed the end because we have had people complain about it getting caught on stuff. Yes, that is a minority user, but we do try to make everyone happy.
Sneaking through
And
the bushes and coming out with a salad on the end of your gun.
exactly. Well, it did let us also increase the surface area inside, and what we have is ridges machined inside the muzzle device that actually do help a little bit more with flash signature. So even though this is an open port compensator, which should be a flash enhancer, it actually does a great job of keeping flash to a respectable minimum. So that was part of the reason why we made that change as well, is just to improve on an already very popular and effective product.
That's something that I really don't know much about, is the design of muzzle devices. I kind of see guys do different comparisons, but I really have no idea what the geometry does to the flash signature. That's interesting to hear that adding surface area has an effect on it, and that might, I'm not sure what that's doing to the gases or to the unburned powder or anything like that.
And I think that's where it has the most effect, is the unburned powder.
Well, JW is our resident engineer, but he's not that kind of engineer. He's the other much larger, much more industrious type of engineer. So, really, in terms of you're bringing the MK1 Mod2 on board, what does this do with the rest of PWS's existing lines?
Obviously, in the case of the Mod 1, you'll have folks that are more of a fan of that gun, which that's fine. We're going to produce them for another, probably 3.5, 4 months, and then as once again those parts supply starts to taper off, then we'll start phasing out certain models. But I think the idea behind it is obviously to attract more customers to the PWS brand, but also, it's to reinvigorate the customers you already have and give them an excuse to look at their existing Mod 1 and go, this one needs a buddy, or this one needs to go up for sale.
Now, as far as MSRP, it looks like they're all kind of right at the same price point, no matter what barrel length you choose, right at that $2,000 mark. How do you guys pick these up? Do you have a network of distributors? Do you ship straight to FFLs that customers have locally?
The majority of our business is with our dealer network that we've been growing since 2008, and it's up to a little over 800 dealers nationwide. We do work very well with RSR and 1 or 2 other distributors throughout the year, but I would say as far as the distributorships go, RSR is definitely our biggest customer, and then our dealer network is by far the majority of our business.
So, in terms of the driver that got PWS to say it's time, was there anything that just kind of was the camel that broke the straw's back, or was this some kind of a, I don't know, just organic process where all of a sudden everybody just came together and it gelled?
It's definitely an organic process. We're always trying to find out what can we do better, and in the case of the Mod 2, it just happened that we had the opportunity to make some changes that, instead of waiting 2 years, why not make them now? Keep on the leading edge of the market, and not wait until we're kind of playing catch up with the rest of the industry, which we've always tried to avoid that. And at the same time, we don't want to make something that's basically just like what another company's doing. We want to sit out and forge our own path. I mean, that's where the push rod long stroke came from. We could have come out with another short stroke gun, but we didn't want to do that. We wanted to kind of break that mold, and we came with an AK style gun that a lot of people love, but it doesn't allow you the interchangeability that a lot of AR builders enjoy, which that's just you have pros and cons to everything. And with the push rod long stroke system, if you want to make a gun that's truly AK like, then that's the trade off you have to make, is that you can't play Legos with your rifle. But you pick it up out of the box, you don't have to go shopping for anything for it. That's always been, we've always wanted to make the guns like we would want to buy them. So we try our very best to have the best mix of equipment and features and accessories standard on it. That means basically you take this thing out of the box, you put your favorite optic on it, and you go to the range. You don't have to go swap out handguards. You don't have to go get a better trigger unless you want to. Furniture, you don't have to go shopping for other furniture unless there's a specific performance-based application that you need fulfilled. So we try to keep it very, very much a gun where it's perfect, as close to perfect out of the box as possible.
And I think that is the thing that strikes me that differentiates the segment of the market that is manufacturing kind of the standard interchangeable platform versus the segment of the market that's over here trying to create some really top-notch, but what I think a lot of people consider expensive rifles. It's that you don't have to buy a $1,000 rifle and then buy $1,000 worth of components to make the rifle you want. You just buy a $2,000 rifle and you're there.
Exactly. It's the whole buy once, cry once deal. It's like you're gonna own that $2,000 rifle eventually, so why not have it done by a factory that does it every day? And for some people that doesn't work. Some people, they want to build it themselves, and that's perfectly cool. But for the person that wants to not mess with it and get it right the first time, and not have to worry about their own wrench turning ability, then then that's the gun that we make for them.
Well, so in terms of the piston as a driver for your action, is this something that you ever look at the market and question whether it is going to be capable of supporting the sales you need? I mean, will there ever be a moment when piston falls out of favor in such a way that it hurts you? Is this something that really doesn't cross your mind because it's a big enough world out there for everybody to coexist? Or how does that play into your thoughts about the future?
Since 2008, the American AR-15 consumer has become so much more educated than I would have ever expected in that time span. When I first started with PWS, the debate was very heavy into piston versus DI at that time. You had forum pages dedicated to it. You had a piston section and you had a DI section. The rest of the forum was DI section, but the piston, redheaded stepchildren had to play in their own area. When I talk to consumers, the debate is very much less about how the gun operates. It's what is the best rifle. So it's not so much them shopping for just piston or just DI. Literally, people are shopping for everything at the same time now, and really looking to compare what is the best rifle. I mean, you have DI guns that are anywhere from $200 to $1,200 more expensive than a PWS piston rifle now. So it used to be price, now it's not. So now it's more of, does the rifle have the chops? Does the rifle perform? And I think people are really starting to see the history of the piston guns in the U.S. market, and they're starting to figure out what's been working, what hasn't been working, and what they need to stay away from. And more and more we have people tell us that they just heard about us. It's their first AR. We never consider ourselves somebody's first AR brand until last year, but more and more we have brand new shoppers looking at us, and previously it was more of, well, you're my fourth or fifth rifle. So obviously we've gone from having more of a niche market with the very experienced AR client to now having the appeal to everybody just entering the market, which is very exciting for me because I keep hearing about these surging handgun sales. And when I hear of handgun consumers buying up handguns as fast as they can because concealed carry opened up in their state or whatever the case might be, hey, those are all people that need a rifle.
There you go. Gotta have
Absolutely.
something to fight your way back to.
Exactly. That's my favorite quote.
Well, so tell us about the industry. I mean, we've just gotten back from SHOT. Um, while the entire show itself is not dedicated to the AR-15, it has its place, and it certainly does have a growing share of the entire market. How do you see the industry right now in terms of what is PWS? I don't know, looking at in the short, mid, long term. Are you guys pretty pleased with where everything is? Is there anything that just kind of makes your jaw drop with excitement, or anything that kind of floors you with anxiety?
Well, it's funny. The years that we perform the best are the years of normalcy. So right now, I would consider the AR-15 market in a year of normalcy. You've got some demand, but it's not skyrocketing right now. We are in an industry that is extremely politically fueled. Uh, you know, Probably almost as much as the oil market. And so it's funny. It's not the incidents that occur involving firearms. It's the politicians stepping in front of the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
I did not start having my phone ring off the hook in December until after the president got in front of the microphone on a Sunday night. And then the next day it was on like Donkey Kong. Flew back from Denver, and the emails were already piling up, and the phone was ringing off the hook. But it wasn't that Saturday, it wasn't that Sunday day, it was that next Monday morning. So it is very politically driven, and that political uh, volatility, so to speak, it really creates these peaks and valleys that the market otherwise wouldn't see. So when we see something bad happen in the headlines and then a politician gets in front of the microphone, it's great. Do we need to order enough parts for 60 days worth of production, 120 days worth of production, or a whole year? And that's what happens is you have this huge vacuum of all the small parts that everybody buys in the market if they don't make them themselves. And that's kind of the indicator for what kind of year you're going to have. You're going to have the kind of year where you're shipping products steadily, or you're going to have the kind of year where you're waiting 90 days for a cotter pin.
In terms of integrating those sources, under an umbrella, has PWS considered whether they need to bring that kind of manufacturing in-house, bring barrel making in-house, bring small parts, springs, roll pins, or do you approach it from the perspective that while it might be a little more costly to carry some extra inventory of those components you're not going to use immediately, it's better to be safe than sorry, and then when you kind of see the writing on the wall, you jump on the phone and get to your sources and say, give me some of these, give me some of those.
Yeah, you got to hedge your bets and keep your warehouse stocked up, because it's always the thing you don't think is going to run out that all of a sudden there's a shortage for in the market. It happens every single time.
So integration of those systems is not really on the horizon at this point?
If I had instead of a 62,000 square foot facility, a 160,000 square foot facility. I mean, that's the thing is, really to make every single part of a gun, you have to be a Colt, you have to be a FN Herstal, and we're not. There's no way. We haven't been making guns for generations. We've been making guns for years, and that's it's kind of amazing that companies like us can compete against the big boys, just because we do not have the square footage, the personnel, and the machinery that they have collected over the decades, and are able to in the flick of a switch increase their production capacity from 20,000 units a year to 60 or 80,000 units a year. So that's
it would seem to me that when you have a company like that as well, they can certainly go to the supplier and say, if you ever want to do business with Colt, put us at the top of the list. And when they buy that many units, I'm guessing that sometimes sources will listen to them.
We all know there are subcontractors of Colt and other companies that size that have become firearms companies themselves, because in the years where the business isn't sustained, then oh, what do you know? We're going to start making rifles. So that's something that we do see quite a bit.
Well, so in terms of what's going on out in the industry, is there anybody right now that you're following that is kind of an inspiration in terms of what they're doing, in the industry and in terms of the arena that we're all fans of?
Yeah, I don't know if I would say inspiration, but AXTS, to me, that company's come out of nowhere, and they are doing some very interesting, bold things with their guns that they're, to me, when I look at it, I think full-on race gun, or, well, in the case of a couple of them, space guns. Um, but they're coming out with some cool, exciting stuff that grabs people's attention, and that's what you got to do in this industry. You have to set yourself apart, and you know I don't know if we really do that at times. I think we try to uh, fly under the radar in a lot of cases, and we just want to make stuff that works. And we've been surviving on really the happy word of mouth of our users, whether they're civilian, law enforcement, or individual military that have added PWS to their own personal collections, and or they get to use them as part of their work, and just the word of mouth spreading like wildfire. And that's when you look at how much we've actually invested in marketing and advertising. It's very, very little compared to a lot of other companies, and
Right.
and still we're growing and expanding at a rate that's commensurate with having a much larger marketing budget than we devote. We would rather take a lot of that money and put it back into the product, which is what we've been doing for the last 7 years.
Well, it seems that it's the case that sometimes a really good company is a victim of its own success. At the moment that your success makes it unable for you to deliver on the things that people expect, and like you said, you under-deliver, sometimes that can kind of be the reaper knocking on the door.
Absolutely, I completely agree with that.
Well, so tell us a little bit about the new collaborative company you're indicating is coming online. So is this part of PWS? Is it another
I would call it a sister company.
sister company?
Yep, yep. So where we had the modern musket line completely intermingled with the rest of our product line, and it kind of got lost in there. Now I would equate it to the ALG and Geissele relationship. Keep the product line separate, keep people from being confused, and you're gonna have a more successful product line. So we're not getting out of the DI game. We're separating it from PWS as an entity.
Well, now tell me, where can the listeners go if they want to find this company on the internet?
Should be bootleginc.com. I haven't gotten on the website yet, so I'm not sure. Let me take a look here.
Looks like that's it. And
Because I have personally, I have no affiliation with Bootleg other than I know about them, and PWS machines make their parts.
Well, so in the short term, they're going to basically just roll up with the things that are right out now in terms of some of the things we discussed now, parts of your DI line that exist. They're just going to take what they have. Is there anything that you're aware of that they're going to kind of try to come out of the gate with that's going to wow everybody, or do they keep you in the dark like the rest of us mushrooms?
They keep me a little bit in the dark, but definitely the new handguard with the pick mod feature will be the first item that rolls out in volume. The stripped version of a DI stripped version of this upper receiver on the Mod 2, and there will probably be a carrier of some sort.
Yeah, their website's got the lightweight adjustable carrier. Do you know much about that? About how the adjustable system works?
I don't. I know that it's multi-position. So I think there's suppressed, unsuppressed, and then 2 intermediate settings. So there's a little bit
Yeah.
more adjustability than some of the other ones out there.
That's cool. We'll also take a closer look at their work.
Well, and suppressor use has become so ubiquitous in the industry that it used to be just a very, very tiny percentage of the population using them, and now it's very, very common. And I think it's finally about time that the DI market, picked up where the piston gun makers kind of cut on first. Was that you've got to tune the guns to the cam. It's
Right.
not a plug and play accessory. It's got to be, just like doing high end modifications on your motorcycle, boat, or car. You've got to recalibrate the entire machine to work with that new part.
Right. Well, tell me, in terms of what PWS is doing in the future, are you guys ever going to conceive of a suppressor line?
At this point, there's no plans for it. We have done, 1 or 2 R&D projects over the years, but at this point, it's such a very crowded market that, that we're so busy building rifles, we really don't feel like we have the excess production capacity to spend on it. But also, it's like, wow, there's so many companies doing an amazing job.
Right.
Where would we start?
Well,
We wouldn't want to enter that market and be a Johnny come lately. And I think at this point, there would be a very good chance of that.
so in terms of your long stroke system, the development of your rifles and their reliability and all of those components, the standard array or the current array of available suppressors does not become problematic for your rifles. You're pretty
No,
comfortable.
no. It seems like the suppressor designs are really evolving to the point where there's a little bit less pressure overall than the past. There's still a few models here and there that I can think of that, as soon as you couple them with mil-spec ammo that's in 223 is a little bit on the hotter side, then you're going to have some carrier speed issues pretty quickly, especially in an SBR. But overall, we're starting to see a lot more use of 30 cal cans on 223 rifles, and that kind of helps out with that a little bit. But the designs are just maturing because there's just so much R&D money being thrown at that segment of the market that they're bound to come up with something better than what's been made over the last 60 plus years. And it's kind of cool to see where that market's headed. We're always excited to see the new suppressors that come out. We're always watching the newer players like Dead Air and Rugged, and of course everybody's watching Silence Co to see what they come out with because they just have such a massive product line. And in Gemtech, of course, we've always been fans of Gemtech because we're kind of local to them, and we have a heck of a lot of Gemtech cans in the building, and and I run a Trek myself, and that's always been a really good direct red can that does a great job keeping the noise down.
Well, in terms of that, when you create a new rifle or you're out there testing concepts, do you have like a grab bag of different manufacturer suppressors so that you can, I don't know, test the spectrum, or is that just a little too much invested into the boys in R&D to give them that many different cans?
No, we do keep. I'm trying to think how many brands we have. I would say we have suppressors from at least 7 to 8 different brands
Wow.
for manufacturers on hand. So
So you
it
feel-
doesn't take much. Doesn't take too much to do that. We need a 5.56 can and a 308 can. That pretty much covers what we need for R&D purposes.
But in terms of that, you feel pretty comfortable that when you release a rifle, you've put it through its paces with pretty much anything someone's going to put on the end of it, and you're pretty comfortable that you're not going to have any customers having issues.
Absolutely, yeah. We spend a lot of time R&Ding, torture testing, fine tuning, taking it back out. There's a fair amount of trial and error, and going back to the drawing board and fixing something before it's actually released to the public.
I'll tell you what, this sounds pretty exciting. I guess I'm going to have to put this on the Christmas list and tell my wife to start saving up. So, wow, I mean, we've covered a whole lot. Is there anything else that we don't know about PWS that's really going to knock our socks off in the next 12 months before SHOT 2017?
This was the big news. Don't worry, we will come out with something else later down the road, but it will probably be, at next SHOT Show or after SHOT Show. But yeah, we've kind of had our big unveiling for the year, and there's not a whole lot else on the burner other than trying to figure out how I'm going to make enough rifles.
Well, I think that's the all-consuming important part of this, isn't it? Well, guys, any questions for Stacy? I know that I kind of monopolized the conversation here, but, that's just because I'm a hog.
I don't think so. I'm just going to be watching for when that ratchet lock buffer tube castle nut comes out, especially being able to retrofit builds that I already have with that. I'm definitely going to be looking for some of those.
Nice.
Well, I tell you what, I just can't think of anything else to grill you on, Stacy. I don't want to take up the rest of your evening with pointless questions.
You guys did a great job this time. You had a whole list of questions lined up, I think.
No, that was all off the top of my head.
Well, applause.
Oh, yeah, this is a completely amateur, seat of our pants operation. I thought you knew that about us, Stacy. No, but seriously, it was great to have you on, and the MK1 Mod2, just really getting a chance to look at it close. I was really impressed, and just everything that you put into it. I think it elevates its presence to a level that I think certainly a serious and educated consumer needs to look at the PWS line when it comes to their next purchase.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate the kind words, and we always appreciate being able to come on to the AR-15 podcast and be able to talk to the fans.
Well, as soon as you start making junk, that's all over. But, while you're still making the good stuff. No, it's a great rifle, and I do really think that anybody that's going to get their hands on it is going to see that through and through. There's some excellent innovations there, and, really, you guys are not staying in the back of the pack, so I don't think you're going to be dying anytime soon, but I'd definitely put you in the front, out there leading the way, so it's an outstanding rifle.
Nice. Well, it's good to know that we're having that impression on folks, so we're definitely aiming for that. We want to let people know that we've arrived.
Well, at this point, we're going to go ahead and get into our close of the show elements, and we don't have any feedback this week, but you're free to stay with us, Stacy, until the end of all that. But if you needed to move on, we certainly understand that. But I want to tell you thank you for coming on and talking to the listeners and telling them about your great rifle here, and we certainly expect you to come back and tell us about anything new that you might come out with in the coming year. But you're always welcome, regardless of whether it's good news.
Have it on. You let me know.
All right. So, guys, I think that's an outstanding show here. Stacy, thank you once again. Any thoughts? Any comments, guys? Anything left unsaid?
Well, I bought that CQB series muzzle device while you guys were talking, so it's happened again.
Yes.
Well, we do know that there are a few Otis winners out there. Joseph Dowdy, David Gonzalez, and I don't think I can read this last one. JD, who is that?
Barack Obama.
Oh, Brock, you won a cleaning kit, so please write into the show and let us know. JD?
You can find his address.
No, he may not be accepting mail there. I'm going to respect the president's wishes.
We may get in trouble if we send the cleaning kit to 1700 Pennsylvania.
Well, it's 1600 Pennsylvania.
Oh,
So if we send it to 1700 Pennsylvania, we might get in trouble.
you can always send your questions and comments to feedback at ar15podcast.com. You can also send us a recorded voicemail by using the SpeakPipe plugin on the right-hand side of the AR-15 podcast website. Subscribe and listen on the podcast on iTunes and Stitcher. Make sure you leave a review. It places the show higher for searches and in the ratings. Share your pictures with us on Instagram at AR15 Podcast. Tag your pictures with AR15 Podcast. You can also follow us at YouTube, where we have the shows posted up there. Facebook.com/AR15 Podcast. Don't forget to use the Brownells affiliate links for all your AR-15 parts needs. That's at ar15podcast.com/parts. And the Amazon affiliate links at firearmsradio.tv and ar15podcast.com. Check out the other great podcasts on the Firearms Radio Network. Reed and JW, I don't know if you saw before we went on, but Jake posted it. We have reached 8 million downloads as a network. And so that's exciting stuff.
Fantastic. Yeah, I just helped him out with This Week in Guns last week, so give that one a listen to if you haven't checked in a while.
Well, guys, it's good to have the old gang back together. We should do this more often.
Absolutely.
How about on a weekly basis?
You know, I think we can do that. Hey, guys, let's put on a show.
Fantastic.
All right, listen. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back again. Lots of great stuff to share with you. We have an exciting year coming up. And as always, have a good week.
Stay safe.
See you later.
This has been a production of the Firearms Radio Network. You can find more information at firearmsradio.tv.